All right, guys, welcome to the channel. This is Joe DePrimo with Maxing Sigma. You'll be finding that we'll be uploading lots of content, and when I say we, I'm referring to our co-hosts, AJ Holland and M.A. Carano. M.A. Carano is an experimental philosopher and systems theorist, and Anthony, AJ, is now an official author. So if that is something you're potentially interested in looking into, I have found that what he's writing on is very impactful, and you could find that link in the description for his current ebook until it's in paperback, of course. With that out of the way, today's video is going to be about weight loss. And currently I am in a bodybuilding prep. It's about week 6 or 7. I lose count because you'll come to find that when you're cutting, you just stop counting because the pain never ends. But what is it about weight loss that I've learned? Well, many years ago, I used to cut at like 1,800 calories off the hop. And I'm sure that's the same for many people because we learn in health class in public schools that the main calories that people typically burn is about 2,000. There's not really getting around that. However, activity level and muscle mass and body weight, and there's so many other factors, will actually change how many calories that you burn. So for example, the job that I do is laborious in the sense that I do a lot of walking. So I'm going to burn a lot more calories in general than somebody that is sitting at a desk like I am here right now on a day-to-day basis. So I'd recommend first that for your first step is to go online and just search up TDEE calculator. And it will give you a few different metrics like height, weight, age. And then it'll ask for body fat percentage, which is optional because I imagine a lot of people don't know that, and it's kind of hard to gauge unless you get professional testing, which even then, those can be inaccurate. But besides those details, the number one thing I've learned is that calories are not a base metric. They vary between individuals. So for that, you need to find out what yours is. So how much exercise do you do? Are you doing a lot of cardio? Are you lifting weights? How much muscle mass do you have? How much body fat do you have? How much do you weigh? How tall are you? All of these are factors. Now, number one for losing weight in general, and let me emphasize the last point is going to be the most impactful. I'm saving that for last, so you stay. So number one is meal prepping. When you want to lose weight, one of the hardest things to deal with is when you go shopping for food and you're hungry while you're shopping. So you're buying potato chips or you're buying candy or whatever, just impulsively buying things that you otherwise probably wouldn't have bought if you had your meal waiting for you when you need it. Point number 2 is your meal timing. It's essential to that, in addition with your meal prepping, that you space them out accordingly to prolong kind of the time that you have to where you're getting to that point where you're getting hungry, and then you have your next meal. So you can go another few hours. So you're spacing them out so during the day you're not hungry, you're not thinking about food. Trust me, when you're losing weight, and if you have tried to lose weight, you want to save yourself the mental space to where you're not having all of these crazy cravings. Point number 3 might be a little surprising, and that's actually sleep. So, with the coach that I hired and that I'm working with in a more friendly sense, because I consider him actually a good friend of mine, is that he spaced my meals to, there's about 6 meals a day, and he spaced them between the hours of 5:30 a.m. in the morning, to my last meal being about 7:30 p.m. And then they're mixed between a series of hours between then the other 4. So what I have found is that in the beginning I was a little nervous because, as a bodybuilder, I'm eating primarily chicken and broccoli is the staple of my diet. And I'm a beef eater by heart. I love it. I love steak. I love beef. I love fish. I'm an eater. So I was like, how am I going to survive this? Eating chicken and broccoli. It's going to drive me crazy. How am I going to go 5 months doing this? Well, you'd be surprised it's not that hard, and you'll find it actually kind of enjoyable, especially with the meal prepping when you can have it when you're hungry, because you could train your body to enjoy it. Now, with the next, going back to sleep, because that was a little bit of a tangent, is that eating at 5:30 in the morning has trained me to go to bed at the same time. So I have work at 7:30. So what I typically like to do, I get up at like between 4:30 and 5 o'clock in the morning, have some time to myself. I drink my coffee, black, obviously, because, the calories are restrictive at the moment. And then I eat my meal, and then I go to the gym. So that consistency, that foundation keeps me in line, in the sense that it's actually not a challenge. It's that consistent schedule. And in addition, when you consistently go to sleep and you set up a circadian rhythm, and it's day to day, day to day, day to day, maybe, once a week I lose sleep. That's fine. That's whatever, you deal with it then. However, you'll find that the circadian rhythm will take care of mood swings, anxiety, depression, and various other things that might cause you to eat. I know myself, when I would be, younger, obese, I would eat out of the needs to distract myself and for pleasure, because of other things such as anxiety, depression. And I have found that by getting consistent, regular sleep, I'm not talking about 8 hours, I'm talking about like within a specific window of time, that it has made it abundantly easier, and those issues they're no longer a factor. I don't feel them, and the consistency in my schedule has made it incredibly easy to stay consistent. Now, point number 4 is protein. So when it comes to protein, realistically, what do all of us want? I'm sure none of us want to be skinny fat, and if you're watching this video, I imagine you don't want to be fat or obese or whatever, overweight, whatever you want to call it, right? We want to be in a healthy range. We want to look good. We want to feel good. So the important aspect of protein is first determine your goals. So 1, if you're like me and you want to have a bodybuilder physique, or maybe you want to compete, my recommendation would be keep your protein as high as it can go. I'm eating between 330 to 350 grams a day right now during my cut phase. I'm going to do this the whole time for 5 months. And the reason for that is because when you keep your protein that high, 1, protein is the most satiating macronutrient out of the 3 of them. So carbohydrates, fats, and protein. Protein is numero uno, just like Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, protein will keep you fuller for longer. And even more so, you'll find that when you have cravings, sometimes it's your body just wanting protein, because that's the building block of your entire body. It builds all your cells. Everything about your meat machine here is made of protein. So take care of that. And my recommendations in terms of how to gauge that is, again, if you want a bodybuilder physique or you're training for a competition, keep it as high as you can. So that way during your cut phase, especially if your cut phase is going to be longer than, 12, 16, 20 weeks, however long it is that you're losing weight and you want to maintain that muscle mass, you keep it high so you're satiated, so you can keep losing body fat and keep your calories in check, and maintain and potentially build muscle during that phase to craft a better physique. Now, if you're just the average gym goer, or you just are the average guy or girl and you want to lose weight just to look good, fit better in your clothes, feel better about yourself, then I would recommend that first, look at how much you weigh. Second, whatever you weigh, find where you want to be. Just get a mental gauge, and as you lose weight, that might even change. So, for example, if you're a 220-pound male, right, and you're the average guy, maybe you don't go to the gym that much, but you'd like to maintain the muscle that you have, but, take it steady and kind of live your life normally, go out with friends, you want to look better. I would recommend doing 1 gram per pound of body weight. If you want to maintain your weight, you keep that the same. So if you weigh 220, you eat 220 grams of protein at least. Now, the average saying in the community is that whatever your goal weight is, so if you're 220 and you want to weigh 190, your goal weight, your protein intake should be about 190 grams. So take your goal weight and just multiply it by 1, and that's how many grams of protein you eat. Now the fifth point is satiety, and I touched on this a bit with protein in comparison with carbohydrates and fats, is that protein is the most satiating molecule or macronutrient that you could eat. So if you have your meal prep, have your meal timing, and your sleep all in control, and your protein's high, and then you know, throughout the day you're spacing it, you're going to maximize your satiety in the sense that you're not going to be finding yourself hungry that often. And that's the goal. You don't want to be thinking about food constantly and be like, oh, I can't wait for a cheat day. Oh my God, I can't wait for this to be over. Because that means a few things. One, if you allow yourself a cheat day, you're going to go off the walls. I've been there, okay? The worst aspect is going to an Indian buffet when you're starving. You feel like you're going to lay on the floor and die. It's awful. Don't recommend it. Personal experience. Number 2 is that when you do get to your goal weight and you finally allow yourself to be like, all right, I'm at my weight, typically what happens is that 2 things. 1, you may start slow and be like, all right, I'm going to eat clean, but like I'll have a cheat meal. And then that cheat meal becomes 2 cheat meals, then 3 meals, until you're right back where you were before you started. And next thing you know, 2 or 3 months down the line, perhaps even sooner, you're right back where you were. You don't want to do that. Don't crash diet. Just remember why you started losing weight in the first place. Now, the 6th and final point, and this is by far my number 1 lesson in the first episode. And again, there's more to come. So, if you're interested in following for more of that content, of more of the things I learn and have to offer with these coming videos, subscribe, like the video, comment any questions you have, and I'll get back to you, and hit the notification bell. Now, anyways, moving on, is calories. So what's so impactful about calories? Well, many years ago, I started learning about nutrition and dieting probably when I was about 15. I'm going to be 25 soon, so that's 10 years ago. Now, YouTube was my main source of information. So 10 years ago, there weren't as many fitness influencers as there are now. You'll see in every gym you go to someone recording with a tripod of a movement that they don't even know how to do. So I don't know, everybody has their thing, but regardless, there wasn't as much information back then as there is today. So when I used to cut, I used to gauge my calorie model on the 2,000 calories a day type of deal that we learn in health class, that the average person in every walk of life, just a very generalized calorie intake, is it's about 2,000 calories. That is incorrect. It varies for every single individual. It depends on height, it depends on age, it depends on your activity level, it depends on so many factors, and even with all those into consideration, every day it changes. Every day, because you're not going to be doing the same things every day, and hormones play a factor in that. That's why, for example, women have a much harder time burning calories than men, because we have testosterone predominantly, they have estrogen, so we can hold more muscle mass, which is more calorically expensive. So I used to cut and be like, okay, well, I'm going to eat 1,800 calories a day and I'm going to do the keto diet. So that's what I do. I lose weight. I'd lose a ton of muscle. I didn't know why. I thought, I just threw my hat in the ring and I figured it would work. However, after working with this coach, I've come to find that the higher you can maintain your calories during a weight loss phase and increase activity will give you a better physique and better results much sooner. So to put it in perspective, I'm eating roughly 2,700 calories on an everyday basis since January 15th. Right now it's February 29th, and I've lost 15 pounds. And I have abs for the first time in my life. So we're talking about I'm eating 900 calories higher than I've ever eaten during a diet phase, and I've lost more weight, and that comes based on consistency and all the other points I laid out for you. So how should you go about this? Well, obviously I don't know you personally. I can't give you any direct advice because I'm just some random dude over the internet. However, what I will say is my first recommendation as a first step is take a look at your day-to-day activity. Are you walking a lot? Are you standing? Do you have a sedentary type of lifestyle or job? Are you going to the gym consistently? When you do go to the gym, are you just doing cardio? Are you lifting weights? How intense is your training? Are you leaving there physically exhausted where you can't wait to go to sleep? Are you having an afternoon crash? All of these are factors. So go on Google and search up TDEE calculator. And it's going to ask you 3 questions, with the 4th being optional. It's going to ask you for your weight, your height, and your age. And the optional one is your body fat percentage. And you could take a guess what it is. I wouldn't recommend that. I would just ignore that because that's very hard to gauge without experience or without more sophisticated equipment like DEXA scans. However, even those are inaccurate. So go on that calculator, calculate your calories. It's going to ask you your level of exercise intensity. Do you exercise 1 to 2 days a week, all the way up to 6 to 7 intense athlete level? So overall, keep your calories as high as they could go and be consistent. That is the number one key for weight loss. So again, this is Joe DePrimo with Maxing Sigma signing out. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I'd be more than happy to answer them.